I don't care what Stephen A. Smith does. I don't care what Gavin Newsom does.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So you're rigid. You're not changing anything.
Progressive host Sam Seder was a guest on Patrick Bet-David's show to go up against Patrick Bet-David and his other co-hosts. And in this section of this long debate that they did, if you want to go to Patrick Bet-David's channel, Valuetainment, and watch the whole thing, you can do that over there. But this really focuses on the idea of team politics and Patrick Bet-David and his co-hosts' seeming obsession with popularity, what's popular and what's not popular. So we're going to take a look at what Sam Seder had to say. We're going to take a look at Patrick Bet-David and the rest. I have my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Rob, can you play the clip with Stephen A. Smith, who has been a staunch supporter of the Democratic Party for decades, and now Stephen A. Smith is being called as a member of MAGA? You know, Rob, we can't play the whole thing. Can you go to the main part? Do you know the main part or no?
I do. Right after he reads this is when he responds.
Okay, let's see what he says, Rob. Go for it.
This Owens, Sean Hannity, and other prominent voices from the right on this podcast as reasons for his premise. Here's a portion of what he wrote on MSNBC.com in an article titled ESPN Stephen A. Smith is a megaphone for MAGA propaganda. Jones says, quote, Stephen A. Smith's embrace of the MAGA movement and its influencers has only continued. In recent days, for example, he has spoken with right-wing commentators Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, and Bill O'Reilly. You might be thinking that these were adversarial chats between a left-leaning centrist and a conservative. But to adroit listeners, they can come across more as conservatives in friendly discussion than anything else. Smith's overt politicism seems to fly in the face of ESPN's apparent effort in recent years to deter some of its talent from speaking on controversial political matters. Either way, the network's most recognizable host is now regularly platforming MAGA propaganda at will, end quote. Now, my team reached out to Jones to have a discussion about the article. I wanted to invite him on the show to talk with me one-on-one personally. I hope we get the opportunity to have that dialogue. He was busy. He didn't avoid the call or anything like that. There was no comment or anything like that. He didn't say anything. He was just very, very busy. We called it the last minute. No shade on him. That's why it didn't happen. But in the meantime, let me express to you what I think about what he wrote. I think that's the exact problem with the left. You see, if I don't agree with you, I must be MAGA. It must be the case. I'm platforming MAGA propaganda. Is that so? I don't view it that way. First of all, even though I lean left, particularly with how I vote with presidential elections, I want to emphasize that I've always been a centrist my entire life. I've never once described myself as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a centrist. I'm a moderate. I don't trust either side. I'm not on one side or the other, hook, line, or sinker. You will see images or you'll hear me rattle off names of people who've been on this show. Yes, you see Ben Shapiro there. Yes, you see Bill O'Reilly there. Yes, I was recently on Megyn Kelly's show. Did you know I'm on News Nation with Chris Cuomo every week? Did you know that I just appeared with Jake Tapper on CNN? Do you know I've been on MSNBC on several occasions? Do you know?
You can pause.
Yes, Sean.
So, do you know what happens when a guy like Stephen A. Smith, he said he's always voted left when it comes down to presidential candidates that he has. So he's not a guy that voted for Trump, right? When a guy like him comes out and he says, what the hell is going on with the Democratic Party?
Is that what he's saying there?
Oh, he said it many. You must not follow what he says because he has said that nonstop the last 2 months, 3 months.
No, I don't follow what he says.
You should. He's actually very good. He's reasonable. It would be good for you to watch. I like his approach. I think he's a...
Do you guys identify as MAGA?
No.
Do any of you guys identify as MAGA?
Here's my question. Can I ask you a question?
He seems to think it's an insult.
Yo, that's what I'm saying. Make America great again. It shouldn't be enough. If you want to make America great again, I'm all in. Call me MAGA all freaking day.
I'm
MAGA. I'm MAGA.
I'm MAGA.
I just want to make America great.
He seems to take it as an insult.
No, I am America first. I'm America first. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for.
Now they're sort of trying to pretend like they're not just all in on Donald Trump, like they're independents somehow. Patrick Bet-David here. And, you know, they're taking Make America Great Again as not being Donald Trump's slogan, but just, oh, we just want America to be better. Everybody knows that if someone is MAGA, that means they are a Trump supporter. And Patrick Bet-David and Vinny Oshana and Adam Sosnick and whatever the other guy's name is, they are all Trump supporters. Anytime I've ever seen clips of their shows over the last few years, they're praising Trump and bashing anybody who is not Trump, essentially.
From 2020. In 2022, when people were leaving to the DeSantis camp, I stayed on the Trump camp. Yep. I've never been off that camp. He's the right guy for America.
So he is MAGA, by definition.
I've been a registered independent now for about 17 years.
What do you think about these tariffs?
No, stay on this topic here with Stephen A. We'll go to tariffs next.
We'll go to guy from I've never heard of from
Stephen A. Smith. I've never heard of Stephen A. Smith.
No, the guy who wrote the
thank God.
something about him.
Yeah, but what do you think about Stephen A? You know what he's been talking about lately with the Democratic Party having issues.
He's a centrist. I don't have to subscribe to what a centrist perspective. I mean, he's a centrist like Gavin Newsom is a centrist.
Gavin Newsom is a centrist.
Gavin Newsom is saying the exact same thing as Stephen A. Smith.
How? Because he realizes progressive policies have been a disaster.
Maybe it's because
he's a centrist as of a week ago when he realized progressiveness is horrible.
Maybe it's because
Sam.
Maybe it's like
I just you don't understand. You guys don't seem to understand.
Bizarro world.
I have a set of politics. I don't care what Stephen A. Smith does. I don't care what Gavin Newsom does.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So you're rigid. You're not changing anything.
It's not a question of I'm rigid and I'm not changing anything. Like there are specifics. Like over time, I have had a different perspective on the deficit. Over the past 20 years and understood it in a different way.
You become more liberal over the last 20 years. You become more of a leftist and progressive.
You got to be more malleable.
I would say
you got to be more malleable, buddy.
I mean, to the extent, like, I don't, you guys have these like labels that you like to use and there's some type of gradation.
Yeah.
But I've always been labels like I've always been about where I am in terms of taxation. But I am for a little bit more decommodification probably than I was 20 years ago.
And all I'm saying here before we go, look, I'm going to go to the audience. Audience, we're coming to you here in a second to go through some of the stories here.
Why we're going to talk about tariffs?
We're going to talk about whatever stories we go through. But the one thing we did learn here with you is America grew up the last 4 years.
Adam, sorry about that.
America grew up the last 4 years. Many Democrats grew up. Every state became more Republican because of the horrible policies on the left, whether it was how they handled COVID, what they did with our kids, how they handled people that didn't want to take the vaccine, and people were fed up. And they voted for a guy who had already been president for 4 years. So it's not like they said they want something new. They said, no, we want to go back to the guy previous to that guy. That is the biggest black eye to Obama, to Kamala, to Democrats, to everybody on the left, when they went back to the guy that they said they didn't want 4 years later, saying, it's like an ex coming back and saying, babe, I messed up. I should have never gone with the other guy. You were my guy. Or guy, babe, I screwed up. I should have never left you for the other girl. I'm such a dummy. Please, Trump, come back. That's what America did. And a guy like you,
I'm not a big fan of Obama's, and I'm not a big fan of Harris's either.
But the point is, you still haven't graduated Sanders. That's like 7th grade. The people that follow Sanders and AOC are in 7th grade, 8th grade. Their heroes are in high school. Your philosophies are popular in high schools, not with adults. The policies that you support are high school policies.
They were not popular when I was in high school.
Oh, are you kidding me? Karl Marx was a hero in kids that went to high school because teachers were feeding the Karl Marx stuff.
I went to high school. Ronald Reagan was president. I can assure you that, and the wall still existed, and there was fear of communism, and that socialism was barely ever expressed.
You're a step away from communism. Like socialism is a step away from communism. That's kind of where you are. You're right there saying, guys, I don't want to fully publicly say I'm a communist. I'll stay in this room.
I'm not.
Because I'm
not
MAGA.
I don't even identify as a socialist either.
You're a progressive, though.
I would say I'm a progressive.
So 90%
is
right
socialist.
of progressive? What's left of progressive? I know you're not big on labels, but just Humor me. What's right and left of being a
I'm
progressive?
probably a social democrat. So I would say there is a certain amount of society where I believe we do not need the private market to deliver it and is less efficient. So when it comes to health insurance, we have already in this country 1/3, maybe a little more actually, on some form of government health insurance. The VA is actually government health care. The doctors work for the government. And that is actually gets very, very high
and
marks.
all I hear is good things about the VA.
The VA
everybody
gets
loves the
high
VA.
marks?
No,
The healthcare does, yeah.
Vinny,
time
you
out,
go to the
time
VA.
out.
From who?
That's 100% false.
From
I
the
get
dead guys.
the worst service from the VA. And I'm a veteran and he's a veteran. He doesn't go to the VA. I go to the VA. I called yesterday just to make an example in our work area. I called. Nobody's picking up the phone for me to get an appointment. Zero. And when you go there, it's the most depressing thing.
But the
So
good
trust
news
me.
is when you go to like get your to the DMV, the driver's license, that's great service,
that's
right?
that's the best. Yeah, that's the best.
Everyone's
No, the
sad.
VA, Sam, the VA is
the
not good.
states run the DMVs,
really
but
liking
my
today's
experience at the
podcast.
DMV is not that bad.
You wanna
But
go to
Respectfully,
what's
there's
that?
one
I'm gonna
thing
go
you
to
said.
tariffs.
There's one thing you
What's that?
said.
I'm
You
gonna go
said
to
the
tariffs.
private market is less efficient. We can look at 250 years of government and everything we've got here. I just can't get
What's the
past that.
administrative
And if that's
cost for Medicare?
And if that's your,
What's the administrative cost for Medicare?
Hang on. If that's your one of your foundational beliefs that the private markets will be less efficient, then it's no wonder you're where you are. I'm not going to pick on it. If that's your foundational
What
belief,
is the administrative
then
cost for Medicare?
Tell us.
2 to 3 cents of every dollar in Medicare is spent on administrative costs. In the private health
administrative
insurance,
defined as what? You got to be careful. I got to be careful when I hear things like that because guess what? You go back and you look at, well, I was only counting this.
The rest
I'm
of
not counting this.
I'm going to stop here because they really get into the weeds here. But the overall theme with this is, Adam Sosnick says to Sam Seder, well, you have to be malleable. You have to be malleable. And Sam Seder is essentially saying he has his beliefs, his views on policy, which have not changed that much. I've been watching Sam Seder's show for years and years. And, he believes strongly in Social Security and Medicare. He believes that we need higher tax rates. I mean, he talked previously on Patrick Bet-David's show about when the country was great, quote unquote, we had a top marginal tax rate of 91%, which of course they just, laugh and scoff at that. And he has talked over and over again that he wasn't a big fan of Joe Biden, that Biden was far from his first choice. He said right here that he doesn't love Obama or Kamala, but when you have two choices, so often in our country, if you're not on a team like MAGA is, you're picking the lesser of the two evils. You're picking the person that you think will get closer to your goals or maybe cause the least damage. And we're seeing the damage that having Donald Trump as president is causing with the stock market crashing right now and maybe our economy going to hell. We'll see what happens there. But when you watch Patrick Bet-David and his co-hosts, Vinny and Adam and the other guy, they are on a team. So they don't care so much about philosophy. I talked about this. I did another video about this, but it's all vibes. It's what they feel. They don't back anything up with facts or statistics. It's whatever they feel is right, and also whatever they think is popular. So they're talking about that Bernie Sanders is, that's high school mentality, but we're adults now, and if you're still thinking about Bernie Sanders, then you're just in high school. Well, if you want to talk about popularity, Bernie is going around the country, and AOC is with him at times, drawing huge crowds. Now, do crowds equate to popularity in the entire country? Not necessarily. But Patrick Bet-David, I don't think, has any ideology other than just taxes should be low and the government is bad. When they talk about efficiency of government versus efficiency of the private sector, if you could point to examples of just really great run companies, then I would agree with this idea. But what are the companies out there in the giant businesses that you just say, man, this place is like a well-oiled machine? Try calling your insurance company. What's the experience with that? It's usually not very positive. It's not efficient. Go to Walmart or your local grocery store. And how long are you going to stand in line to get groceries, to pay for your groceries? You know, I just don't see that there's all this efficiency with private industry that's so much better than the government. I have a small business where I'm selling products online and delivering them all over the country and to other countries. So I deal with UPS, FedEx, and the post office, USPS. At least in my area, I can't speak to having a business in some other state, but at least in my area, the post office does a great job. I have had way fewer items lost or damaged by the post office than I have UPS or FedEx. So if the post office would go away, I think it would be a disaster because UPS and FedEx are not only not more efficient, they're way worse than the post office in my experience of sending thousands and thousands of packages over the years. But my whole theme with this is Patrick Bet-David, Adam Sosnick, Vinny Oshana, and all these other right-wingers, they're all on a team, and they're just going to parrot and praise whatever Trump says and does. If Kamala Harris were president right now and put all these tariffs in place and the stock market crashed, they would be all over her, saying how this is the worst thing that's ever happened. She's a communist and she's destroying our economy. Donald Trump does it. They're spinning to say how it's going to be good and we needed to do this and blah, blah, blah. But I'm rambling a bit. Let me know what you think about all of this with Sam Seder going up against Patrick Bet-David and his other co-hosts. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. This is Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.